I haven't pulled up those. Pull up those real quick while the stream's loading. There we go. Um. All right. Okay, we are streaming.
Yay!
Yay! Hi guys, we're all here. Shit, man. All right. Yeah. Are we ready to go? Are we
I'm
ready to
ready.
do this?
Scary.
I know. Oh, the other problem I had before I start the countdown and the music and everything. Uh, I get back. I turned my computer off when I left last Wednesday. Turned it back on. Let's see. We got back on Wednesday night. I think I turned it on maybe Thursday or Friday, so it had been off for a week. The moment I turned it back on and it got up and running, I think we used it for a little bit, and then there were updates fucking galore.
That'll happen.
But then I wasn't on my computer all that much because, like, Thursday and Friday I took off work, and so we were at the pool on Thursday and Friday. Saturday we were off doing a bunch of stuff, and so I sat down on my computer for a little bit, but not long. So tonight I came down here. I was down here by 8:15, and I sit down at the computer and I'm like, oh, it just needs some updates done. So I clicked restart, because I didn't want it to do it in the middle of the show, and then it sat there and for almost 30, 40 minutes for it to finish all the updates. Like,
Don't you
God.
love that?
Yeah, yes, I do. All right, here we go. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Alien Week at the Podcast Arcade.
That's right, everybody. It's Alien Week. Welcome to Geekvice episode 178, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. It is Alien Week on the Podcast Arcade. I hope, John, or Kip, did you hear that? Did you get to
I,
hear?
I could hear it, yes.
That is our Podfathers intro for Alien Week. You are going to hear that on all of the podcast arcades. Podcasts, all their shows are going to have that little intro in it, and that is our little contribution to Alien Week. We are going to be talking about all kinds of things aliens, and but we have been, sorry for missing last week, but we were out of town. Both Kip and myself were out of town. So how was your last couple weeks there, Kip? You're still alive.
I'm still alive. I'm a little sunburnt, but I'm still alive. Got to do some fishing and camping with my dad and a friend, so that was good.
That's all.
Caught some fish. My dad caught the biggest bass he's ever caught in his life, which is great. Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with aliens, but it was really cool looking fish.
Hey, that's fish kind of. I do think fish actually fit into the alien category. I mean, those are some weird ass creatures. Let's just put it that way. I mean, they're the ones that swim around and will bite fake looking things just to get caught. And then you throw them back and they don't learn from it because, I don't know about you, but my fishing experiences, I've caught the same fish multiple times. Like, you know when it's the same fish when it has the hole in the same spot that the last hook got in it, It's like they don't learn from it. Those things are definitely aliens.
Well, I don't know if being extremely stupid makes you an alien, but we'll go with it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe not. All right. Yeah, the last couple weeks have been crazy. We've played a lot of board games here. Took a lot of board games. We went to Destin, Florida. My family and another friend of ours family. So there's 8 of us. Took a nice 2 hour or well 2 car caravan for a 16-hour drive to Destin, Florida. I won't bore you guys with all the stuff that we did there, but I will say what makes car rides go a lot better: audiobooks.
Oh yeah.
So my wife found at the library. We've talked about this on Geekvice as well about the Percy Jackson books. Well, Rick Riordan, who wrote those, has written a second series to the Percy Jackson series about Roman gods, and the she found the first book in audiobook form, which is a 16 and a half hour of audio. And she's like, there's no way we're going to listen to all of that on the trip. I mean, part of it was we were, the way down, we were leaving at, at 3 o'clock in the morning, so we weren't going to be listening to it then. There's no way the kids will sit still long enough and want to listen to the whole thing. So we listened to it a little bit on the way down, but for the entire 15 hours, we drove 15 hours straight from Florida back to Kansas City, and we listened to that book the entire way. Whether the kids fell asleep or not, my wife and I were completely engrossed in the audiobook, and we're like, screw it. The kids will wake up and they'll get caught up. They don't really even care. We're just going to listen to this because this is too damn good. So, yeah, not aliens, but audiobooks, freaking awesome for long car rides. Yeah, so that's enough of that stuff. Let's go with some of our announcements for the Podcast Arcade and Geekvice. Again, this is Alien Week, Podcast Arcade. Go check out the other podcasts. Go check out the website, thepodcastarcade.com. Go click on those arcade machines, and they will take you to the other podcasts where they're going to be talking about aliens this week. I believe Sound what is it? Soundtrack Alley is doing Transformers. Underground Inc. is doing E.T. So I'm definitely gonna check out Soundtrack Alley's Randy's this week because I really want to hear his thoughts on the audio and the soundtrack for Transformers. So I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah, you
Even
should be on that one.
yeah. Well,
You could talk Transformers all day.
well, the 1985 movie had the best soundtrack ever, so we can go with that one. But yeah, there's that. We've also got. Don't forget, guys, get your tickets. Less than a month away. O Comic Con in Omaha, Nebraska. Go. Their website for that is ocomiccon.com and no spaces. Go get your tickets. That is July 7th through the 9th. Geekvice will be there. The entire Podcast Arcade will be there. So you can come, meet us, talk to us, and maybe even get on one of our shows if you're there. So come see us up there. O Comic Con, very cool thing, and is going to have a podcast-centric area called the Podcast Arcade Lounge. So how awesome is that?
That is completely awesome.
Enough about all that other crap. Let's talk it. Let's talk aliens.
Whoa. We need Eddie's voice for that.
I know. Yeah, we do. Eddie's got the alien voice, right? Or just the announcer voice.
Yeah, he may or may not actually be an alien.
Yeah, I mean we call him the Podfather, but I'm pretty sure there's alien blood running through him. So let's start with your stuff here because I want to hear about your UFO sighting.
All right. Well, I've ever since I was a little kid, I loved the what just call the paranormal stuff. The chances of UFOs being out there, chances of Bigfoot being there, chances that ghosts are real, all that stuff. I would read books, watch TV shows about it, everything. But it was one of those things where my heart wants it to be true, but my head is like, yeah, it's never going to happen. That kind of thing.
Right.
So I always thought it'd be cool if I saw a UFO or Bigfoot or something like that, but never really expected it to happen. So, God, it's been 5 years now. Back in 2012, we went to a thing called Symphony in the Flint Hills. Every year, the Kansas City Symphony picks a location, somebody's ranch out in the Flint Hills, and they put on a concert. This year, or that particular year, it was south of Topeka somewhere. I can't remember where. Just out in the middle of nowhere. And we had to go out to Topeka, turn south, and head towards it. Well, spent the whole day there. Now we're coming back. So I'm making a long story even longer here. And we're driving. It's me, my wife, and her mother. And her mom's passed out in the back seat, completely asleep, and we're just cruising along. And I look off to the west. And I see like 6 or 7 kind of orangish yellow lights just kind of hanging there, but they weren't any kind of pattern. They were just scattered there. And I point that to my wife and said, what do you suppose that is? It's kind of weird. And she looked at it and goes, I don't really know, because they weren't flashing. They weren't really, of course, we're going down the highway. We're doing like 70, so, but Right. It didn't seem like they were moving. And they just didn't look like a regular aircraft kind of thing. So just kind of kept my eye on them. And then I looked down and was driving, and then I looked back up. Now they're all in a perfectly straight line. They went from all over the place to now they're in a perfectly straight line. And it's like, now I really have no idea what this is. Because my first thought was, we're not terribly far from Fort Riley, right. Air Force Base here in Kansas. Maybe it's, the Black Knight paratroopers doing a nighttime thing for some reason with,
right,
or flares or something. I'm trying to come up with a rational thought behind all this. Is like, what the heck am I seeing? And then when they were at different levels and all that other stuff, different altitudes in the sky, you could say, yeah, it's paratroopers, or it truly is flares or something like that. But when they all ended up at the same altitude in a perfectly straight line, now you're thinking, well, it can't be something that free falls, because some of them went back up to form into this completely straight line. So watched for a little bit as best I could going down the highway, and eventually we had to turn and head east to Kansas City, so we lost sight of it, but it never really seemed to get any further away from us or any closer to us, even though we were traveling pretty fast down the highway. It just seemed to just kind of hang there. And when we turned, I tried to catch it in the rear view mirror and everything, and it was just gone.
Right.
I say it could have been multiple things. I don't know what it was.
Whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, you can refer to it as it.
What it was.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. And, of course, my wife was like, she couldn't figure it out. And so I just gave her an idea to hang on to so she could not flip out. I said, well, it was probably just skydivers, and then she clung to that like life itself. So,
Yeah, because I can't see your wife being one that could take kindly to a UFO type thing actually going on unless somebody could clearly define it as such. You know.
yeah. Well, we're talking about the woman who, because of the book and the movie It, doesn't like to go near storm sewers. So, if we have something unidentified in the sky, is she not going to go outside anymore? So these are things you have to consider.
Yeah, that's really never a good thing. Um, yeah, and that's anytime something like that, I gotta say I'm not an anti alien or anti intelligent life outside of where we are. I'm more of a person of any intelligent life that is out there is so far beyond us as earthlings that they're not even gonna bother. Like it's like us. It's like humans and ants. We don't go in and try to change the way the ants work. We might go and observe them from now and from time to time, but we pretty much just let them do what they do, and we're like, okay. That's kind of what I feel like. If there's alien life out there, that's what they are to us. We're ants. They're these supreme beings that might look in on us from time to time just to go, oh, look at them. They're being so stupid.
They're so cute at this age.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're really just going to avoid us as much as possible because they just don't want to deal with this stupidity.
Well, it's funny because I've been following this stuff pretty much as long as I can remember. The theories out there are some of them are hilarious. Some of them make you think, well, there's some plausibility to this, and it's just fun to look at some of the things. Like there's a group of people out there that believes that what we're seeing in the sky is actually us from the future. So
Okay.
they think we've kind of created the ability to time travel, and these are the vehicles that do it.
Did you
There's a
ever
go ahead.
did you ever watch the movie Another Earth?
Yes.
It's kind of like that type of thing, or I guess that was more just parallel,
Yeah,
not necessarily future. That
that
was
was just an entirely second planet.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think the prevailing thought is we have the ability to time travel, and they're coming back in time to fix some things, or well, maybe not even fix, maybe adjust them so they win in the future. I don't know, but that's
All right.
one of the theories out there. Another one that I've heard that I don't know what makes people think this. It's just kind of funny, but that they are basically our ancestors. They came in and we were basically Neanderthals,
Right.
and they messed with us genetically and turned us into what we are today. And a lot of people believe that's what all the stories in the Bible are about.
The
If you want,
pyramids in Egypt.
yeah, watch a show called Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, and you'll see what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
hell, watch the movie Stargate.
yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah, but at
that's the
least it's a
whole.
Hollywood movie. This is
Well,
people who actually believe this in real life. There's a book called Chariot of the Gods by Eric. Oh man, I just had it in my head, just right there. But Eric von Danning or something like that. And he points to all these artifacts that have been found all over the world, and then paintings and things like this that depict basically flying saucers in the sky, men in flying machines, back when, we didn't even have electricity. We didn't even really have any real formal education or anything like that. Like back in the days of the pharaohs and even before then. So they found all these artifacts, and truly they do look like airplanes, or truly they do look like our today's concept of UFOs. Um, my thought behind all those is, have you really just doodled on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
drew a shape? It may have meant nothing to you at the time, but somebody else can look at it and go, hey, it looks just like something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if that's what it is.
Right.
It's not all that fetched that somebody just created an oval shaped something, and now we're looking at it going, oh, look, it's UFOs. It's proof that UFOs were there back then.
Right. Right. Yeah. And for all of those before they send nasty emails, Chariots of the God by Eric von Daniken.
Daniken. I was close.
Yes, you were. But I wanted to make sure we got that out there, just in case Mr. Von Daniken listens to the show. We don't want him
If
to
he
be offended.
does, I'm pretty excited about that, because I've read his book like 3 or 4 times now. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating as hell. I also have another book that has all these pictures of the moon and what they think is artificial structures on the moon, which is kind of cool. So yeah, you can say I'm kind of a nut about this stuff.
Hey, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, I mean, now if we go back to your personal UFO sighting, those lights. Now, could it have been? You said those lights look like they, like some of them went up in altitude and came back together. Could it have been the depth perception of that? Maybe they were apart depth wise and then came together, so it looked like they went up.
It's very possible.
Yeah,
You have to keep in mind, I'm going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour.
right. Yeah.
And it's like 10:30 at night. So, yeah.
Yeah.
If I would have pulled over on the side of the road and then witnessed what was going on, then I could positively say this is what
Right.
happened.
Well, and I think the pitch that you gave, Holly of being skydivers or even being, paratroopers on a practice night run type thing, nighttime practice, that's not completely out of the question, right? In
No,
that
it's not.
area. I mean, but a UFO could be possible too, and that's way more fun to talk about.
Well, it was in the air, so I'm going to say it was flying.
Right.
I don't know what it is, so it's unidentified. And
Yes.
it was an object, so there you go. It met the criteria.
Exactly.
With my eyes.
And that is what I think is the most fun about UFOs and aliens. I mean, the term alien I should have looked up the definition for that, but an alien life form is like we have aliens. We use the term aliens even in our life right now. People who come in from other countries are called aliens. They're either legal or illegal aliens. So yeah, aliens is just a term is basically like somebody that's not from here. So, and UFOs being an unidentified flying object could really be something that, I mean, you could see something in daylight. You could see an actual plane go by that doesn't look like a plane we've ever seen before and go, I don't know what that is. Therefore, it's a UFO because it's unidentified. You have no idea what it is. It could be a rock flying in the sky, for God's sakes. I mean, meteors flying across the sky. They fly at such, high altitudes and at such velocity. some normal, average Joe looking up and seeing this thing fly across the sky, um, it's they're not going to be able to identify it. They're not smart enough to fully understand it, and that's why I think those terms, like, they provide so much fodder for anyone that enjoys the unknown.
This
It's
is this is true. I mean, it's a broad definition. It really is. It's just what I saw. Was there any identifying marks? No. Why? Well, it was probably too dark for me to see.
right.
Um, it didn't have the navigation lights of an aircraft that we're used to.
Right.
So, what was it for sure? Um, there was a. I'm one of those people that every now and then I'll just get a wild hair and say I'm going to research the hell out of a subject
Yeah.
until I've kind of exhausted it or I've lost interest or whatever. And so the mid 90s, I'd say it was, I decided I'm going to find out everything I can about UFOs. And I even talked to people to see if they believed or if they've ever seen something that they can't explain. And the interviewing of people was the fascinating part. Um, Everybody that I talked to pretty much would not discount the idea that there could be something there.
Sure.
Um, I actually talked to a few people who had seen something they can't explain. A
Hmm.
couple of them were daylight sightings, and it was a non-traditional looking craft in the sky. I wish I had seen it as well.
Right.
But I also know that there are times I look up in the sky during the day and I know it's a plane, but it's turned so you can't see the wings and it has that shape. And you're like, look, ta-da, you know,
Right. Yeah.
it looks like a UFO. But that's also kind of insulting the person that's telling you the story because we don't know exactly what it was they saw. We don't know the conditions. We don't know how close it was, how far away it was,
Right.
anything. So I don't want to discount anything anybody tells me because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say, oh, it was probably this. Unless they give me a photograph or a video or something, and then I could say for sure.
Right.
Uh, I'm just not going to do that.
Well, and
Like,
even with that, I mean, there's no reason. I mean, for kind of in the same line, like you and I both are on that same stance of yes, there could be something out there. So if there could be something out there, there's no reason to completely discount or discredit anyone who says they've seen something because it could be. I mean, at some point there we could run into somebody here, and why can't that be tomorrow? Why couldn't that have been what you saw in the sky? Why couldn't that have been your opportunity? Maybe if you would have driven towards those lights instead of away from them, maybe you would have been the first person to unequivocally encounter a alien life form.
possibly.
Maybe.
Or I could have been arrested for interfering with something the government was doing. But
Well, yeah, who cares about that?
it's just prison. What the hell?
Yeah.
It's if okay, so our listeners, if you've seen something or know somebody who's seen something, send it to us in an email,
Yeah.
geekvice@gmail.com, because I'd like to know. I told you mine. There's, we just talked about two or three plausible things it could be. Don't know for sure. We'll never know. And that's totally fine. Um, Another thing I wanted to talk about as far as this kind of thing goes is when I was camping this last week, one of the guys that goes with us, he's a friend of my dad's. They live out in the northeastern part of Colorado. It's all farms and ranches, and his whole family has cattle
Mm-hmm.
and have a big farm out in the middle of nowhere. One of the cool things about where we were, you could even see the Milky Way. I haven't seen that many stars in a very long time, so that was
Yeah.
kind of cool. So his uncle has this ranch, and this was a few years back. I can't remember how long ago he told me this was, but they bought like 3 or 4 bulls, and one of them was like the prize bull. So they spent a little bit more money on this one, and it's the one that, if anything was bad to happen, that's the one you just didn't want it to happen to.
Right.
And they went out one morning to check on the cattle, and the one bull just was nowhere to be found. So they had to search all over for it, and eventually they found it. And it was a victim of the cattle mutilations that you've heard about.
Hmm.
Tongue, eyes, its manly parts, all removed. Blood completely drained from the body. No blood anywhere. No blood on the ground, no tracks, nothing. It's just like somebody just laid it there.
Huh.
With all the stuff missing, including all of its blood, but no trace of blood being spilled anywhere, nothing. Okay, so this guy does not believe in UFOs and aliens, and he even said that while he's telling me this story.
Right.
But I do not go out and check on the cattle without my gun now.
Yeah.
It completely freaked him and his uncle out that they will not go out to the farm without him. For him, it's his 45. He does not go out there without his 45.
Huh.
He doesn't know what did it. All he knows is he doesn't want it to happen to him, and he's going to carry his gun.
Sure.
So take that for what it's worth. But to me, Dave is a no-nonsense guy. He's a farmer. He owns part of the grocery store there. He's a hard worker. He's just a salt of the earth kind of person. And for something like that to happen and completely freak him out, it says something to me. And for him to confess it was pretty wild, because we weren't even talking about aliens or UFOs or nothing. We were just staring at the sky because it was awesome. And then and there was a flash of lightning off in the distance. And he's going, okay, that lightning just reminded me of something. And then he told me this story. So,
That's...
got the main part of the story is the night before they saw these flashes off in the distance towards where the ranch was, and they just thought it was lightning.
Right.
Next day, cow gone.
Huh.
So I guess
Wow.
bull gone. So yeah. So there's that. So there's the freaky part of this whole UFO thing, and that is these cattle mutilations.
Yeah, and that's something. I mean, that's hard to explain in any way. Like, I'm by no means am I a smart person. I don't think I am intelligent. I'm not on the upper end of the spectrum. I'm more like average to maybe more below average.
So you're not a mental member, is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Hey, too. I'm with you.
So, I mean, I don't know of anything that could do that. I mean, well, and those a bull is not light. Like, that can't be. It's not like somebody can pick one of those up and just set them down wherever they want. That just doesn't. It doesn't work. Whether it's got all its blood or not, it's still, you're still talking about an animal that could weigh a ton.
Yeah, and this was a young bull, and I think he said it weighed 1,400 pounds.
That's still a lot. That's way up there, man.
I don't know. He threw a lot of numbers out. That could have been how much they paid for it. Yeah,
Still,
so 1,400 pounds is way too much for a bull. You'll have to forgive me. It was, I can't remember all the details, but
you'd slept since then. It's all right.
yeah,
But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you just look at that and you're like, like with your story, not that we were discrediting it or anything like that, but you can try to put some sort of explanation to it
yeah,
to
you rationalize it.
yeah, to rationalize it. I don't know how you rationalize the bull. I don't like it'd be one thing if there were tracks leading away from it. It'd be another thing if it was drained of blood, but there was pools, but the ground was just soaked around it with blood.
Yeah,
I can't think, it's like it's surgically removed type stuff. Animals when they attack, they don't. Yes, they would go for soft tissue type things. So eyes, testicles, like that kind of stuff would be fair. Those would be areas that they would go to attack, like to eat because it's meat. But a tongue is not something that you go and just like they have to work to get that. That's a little less likely. They're going to go, they go more for the meat on the side of the animal as opposed to the tongue.
right. And according to Dave, besides no blood, the freaky part about it was is it did not look like an animal attack. Everything was too, and you
Too
used the word surgical.
surgical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and okay, so if you're somebody who's outside this much, somebody who is out in the wilderness as much as my friend Dave, you kind of feel like you've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure if he saw something and you're like, that's kind of weird, he could be like, well, it's because this, or this.
Yeah.
For him to be completely clueless about what happened to this animal to the point that he's carrying a gun on him,
That
that's
says a
scary.
lot. Yeah.
That's scary stuff. And,
Oh, that.
his 60, 70-year-old uncle won't go out there without a weapon either. And that man has seen some stuff.
Right. All right. That's
So
crazy.
it is
That is
crazy.
crazy.
When Dave told me the story last week, it was like, I can't believe you're telling me this because Alien Week is next week. I can't wait to talk about this. But
Yeah, so we need listeners that are smarter than us to be able to
which is
email
all
us.
listeners.
Yeah, which is pretty much everyone. I'm not sure that I've met somebody that I don't count as smarter than me. But we need you guys to email us at geekvice@gmail.com and rationalize that for us. Come on, let's get something there. Let's get something, because otherwise Kip can't tell his wife about this. Otherwise, she'll never eat another cow
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. She'll never have a hamburger again.
I love it. I see, and that's the thing. I like these stories. I enjoy the idea of these. I don't have any personally. The closest thing I have to a story like this is, again, as a child, young, out camping. When the campfires died down enough that you can, and there's no lights out there and you can see all the stars and you're just laying out there looking up at the stars and um, you see these lights just go across the sky, and at first you think maybe they're shooting stars, then you start, as a kid you're like, I have no idea what these are. More intelligent people informed me, some of the adults that we were camping with, and my dad was like, well, that's probably a satellite, and if you watch it, you will watch it just go across that same spot over and over and over again. And as you lay there and you start thinking and start paying closer attention to it, you're like, oh yeah, it's not really moving. Like, it's not moving in a direction in the sky. It's just moving in a straight line straight across it. So yeah, that's a satellite just sitting out there, and you're seeing it orbit the Earth. Makes sense. But to me, as a person sitting there, that's an unidentified flying object because I can't identify it. I have no idea what it is. Someone can tell me it's a satellite, but to me, that's still unidentified. I can't tell what it is. So I'm going to, that's the closest thing to an alien or a UFO sighting I've got. Um, but I still
Yeah,
enjoy,
yeah.
you know,
I imagine anybody that spent any time outside as a kid at night has seen something fly by in the sky that they
yeah,
can't wrap their minds around, especially when you're 8 to 10 years old.
right?
You're like, there it goes. I don't know what it was,
Right? Or you see it once and then you like maybe you shift in or you change where you move where you are and you look back up and you can't find it again. So you see it once and then you don't see it again. You're like, huh? Well, that's odd, But things move and that's okay. But yeah, it was. I mean, that's kind of cool stuff. I love these stories. I like watching the TV shows about it. I mean, like the X Files stuff. X Files has been one of my. That was one of my favorites. I mean, that's one of my favorite TV shows to watch. Um, when it comes to aliens and the stuff that comes off, comes from it.
Right.
I mean, there's just no. It makes it feel so real, but yet still so far out there. You're like, yeah, that can't be true, or can it?
Exactly. And if you dig into this phenomena, there's enough, I'm going to just say, crackpots out there that if there is any legitimacy to the UFO thing at all, these people have ruined it.
Yeah,
Because you can always point to these people and everybody'd have to say, yeah, they're a crackpot.
yeah,
And so it overrides the small percentage of ones that come from credible witnesses, from really clear sightings that nobody can explain. Those get washed out by the crackpots, and it's sad because, like I said earlier, wouldn't it be cool if it was true?
yeah,
Well, we may never know because, for one, you may never see one, and two, there's so much disinformation, I'll call it, because of these crackpots. You just don't know anymore.
right, right,
It's just the, I don't know, people wanting to be famous. I don't know. It just kind of ruins it. It reminds me. I went on a ghost hunt. Holy shit! Probably around 2010, somewhere in there, with some friends of ours, with Celeste and her husband. You know Celeste.
oh yeah, yeah,
And we went, and it was at this house here called like the John Warnell House or something like that. And there's all these people there, different walks of life, and you get to talking to them. And one of the women there believed in things like astral projection, and that was one of the few times I've heard about it. Astral projection, being able to jump from one dimension to another, that kind of thing.
right,
And then not too long after that, I was reading some stuff about Bigfoot, and these people believe that Bigfoot has the ability to jump dimensions, and he's an astral traveler and all this other stuff. And it's like, those are the kinds of people that take any chance of this being believable and flush it down the toilet.
right,
Whether it's real or not, people are seeing something. They're seeing something. I'd like to know
Yeah.
what it is. But then you have these people coming up with this crap that muddy the water, make it so if you are studying this stuff, you're kind of looked at as a crackpot as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish they would really stop doing this crap, because if people are seeing something and you're keeping real scientists from taking a look at this because you have just thrown so much crap on it that nobody wants to look at it. You're doing everybody a disservice because maybe they'll find something and it's like, oh, by the way, it was the Chinese spying on us or something. It could be something
Right.
like that. But nobody's taking it seriously because of people like that. And it actually makes me mad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's the extremists for everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes the extremists help, and sometimes they hinder. Because there are ones that are so dedicated and take this stuff to a whole nother level that allows them to um, that just they just embed themselves completely and learn so much, and they're able to see and pick out things that other people don't because of their experiences and what they've learned. But then you have on the same side of it, you have the people that go and, like you said, throw so much crap at it to see what sticks, whether it's for attention or whether it's for, whatever reason. And yeah, it does. It muddies the water, and everybody gets accused of being crazy if one person is crazy. So
Yeah. Because there was a long amount of time, I guess is the best way to put it, where pilots, if they saw something, they never reported it.
yeah.
Because they could be lumped in that category and lose their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
be discredited enough to lose their pilot's license, because they saw something they can't explain. Why should that be such a bad thing? Well, because of these other idiots that make it look like if you're seeing this stuff, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And so, if you're one of those people and listening to this, just stop it. You're ruining for everybody else.
There you go. So, I think that right there is a perfect spot to put a little closing in here. Because, yeah, crazy people need to cut it out. You can follow us on our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can also go over to Facebook. Check us out at facebook.com/geekvice. The podcast arcade. Go check out the other guys that are doing stuff that is cool for Alien Week this week and for the previous weeks and future weeks. Go check out all those shit guys over there at thepodcastarcade.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at tiny.cc/geekvice. That will get you another episode. If you subscribe to that, you will see another episode on there coming later this week. That is Geekvice Gaming, and that is going to be Alien Week as well. I've got a new game that I'm playing, and it is all about alien life forms living in space, colonizing, not really colonizing, more trying to survive on alien planets with alien creatures. And it's a lot of fun. So
There you have it.
yeah, go do that. You can also follow us on Twitter, that man over there, at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. And, of course, email us with your alien sightings and your UFO rationalizations to geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next week.
Later.
Welcome to Alien Week at the Podcast Arcade.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.